and welcome to the Charlie's Nala YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and I am one of the promoters at Charlie's Nala, and they've asked me to share some videos with you all using the Charlie's Nala products with acrylic. So in today's video I'm going to be using this gorgeous pink mermaid glitter, and I'm going to be showing you how I apply it with acrylic and how I encapsulate it in acrylic. So I'm going to do 3 different designs just so you can kind of get a rough idea of how I would work and do simple designs using a chunky glitter mix like this one. Now I like to pour my glitters into one of these little triangular glitter trays because I find that way it's a lot easier to pick up the glitter with my acrylic. Now for the purpose of today's video I'm working on my flexi hand. I have already applied these natural nail tips to act as the nail bed, and then I've popped on some tips for the extensions. You could obviously sculpt if you prefer to sculpt rather than use tips. Now for the first nail I'm going to do a full glitter nail using the pink mermaid glitter. So I'm going to need my clear acrylic to pick up the glitter and apply it, as well as encapsulating. And then I'm also going to use this pink coloured acrylic just as a base. I'm just going to pop a thin wash of this down, like I said, as a base for our glitter. But to begin with, I always like to do a thin clear acrylic base, and there's 2 reasons for that. I personally find clear adheres best to the natural nail plate, so you're going to make sure that you get the full duration out of the set of nails. And I also like to do a clear base in case I want to do a redesign. I can then file off my glitter and coloured acrylic after a couple of weeks, file right back down to that clear layer, and then I'm able to infill and do a new design. So with my clear base, I'm just popping down a medium-sized bead at the cuticle area, just blending that down towards the tip of the nail. And I'm also doing my best to keep this as thin as possible because you don't want to add any additional bulk to the nail. And now I'm going to come in with my coloured acrylic. So I'm going to pick up a small bead of this pink acrylic, place that down at the cuticle area, tapping it up into place to get a nice neat cuticle line, and then I'm just going to paint this down the nail. I want this to be a really thin wash of colour. I'm not really applying this to get the colour as such, I'm just applying this as a background for our glitter. I personally find it a lot easier to get a nice neat cuticle line with acrylic rather than with the glitter. And then also, if you're using a chunky glitter, you might not be able to get full coverage with the glitter itself, so by popping a matching colour underneath just helps it if there are any gaps between your glitter pieces. So now that I've got the coloured acrylic down, I'm going to pick up a teeny tiny wet bead of my clear acrylic, dip it straight into that raw glitter, and I'm going to press that down onto the nail. Now I'm keeping a lot of my monomer in my brush, so I'm able to mix those glitter particles into the clear acrylic, and then I'm just nudging it into place. I'm working with small beads of glitter and acrylic and just working my way down the nail. It's a lot harder if you come in with a large bead of acrylic and a lot of glitter. So just working small beads, and then you're able to manipulate and move those glitter pieces where you want them to be. And then I just repeat this until the entire nail is covered. By working with your your acrylic quite wet, you're also able to move those glitter pieces around a lot easier. So you can see here as well, I've not wiped my brush off. I'm leaving all of that monomer in my acrylic brush, so I'm able to nudge and move those glitter pieces around without them sticking into my brush. Now when you are picking up your acrylic and applying it to the nail with your glitter, you want to make sure you're really smoothing that glitter out. You don't want too many of the chunkier pieces overlapping because it's going to end up quite bulky on the nail. And when you're doing anything that's going to be encapsulated in acrylic, you want to make sure each layer that you're doing is quite thin. Otherwise, when it comes to encapsulating, your overall nail is going to end up quite bulky. So here you'll see I don't want to add any more acrylic because my nail is going to end up bulky, but I do want to add a little bit more glitter. So I'm just picking up glitter pieces using my wet brush and tapping them down onto that tacky acrylic mix. And then I've achieved full coverage with that glitter. So I've allowed it to set, and I'm now going to come in and encapsulate. So I like to run my wet brush over the nail before coming in with my bead of acrylic. This just makes sure that when I place down my bead of acrylic, it's going to flow nicely over the glitter and get into all of the little grooves and crevices between those glitter pieces. Then I place my bead of acrylic down. These nails are quite long, so I'm going to work in 3 beads, I believe I do this one with, just because of the length of the nails. Obviously, when it comes to how many beads of acrylic you use, it's kind of down to personal preference. So I've placed my bead down, I've patted it into place, I'm blending it back slightly, and then I'm going to pick up my next bead of acrylic. And I'm just working my way up the nail. So I'm placing this down, blending out the back of it slightly, and then just pulling that acrylic down, making sure that I'm fully encapsulating all of that glitter. You'll be able to see when your glitter is encapsulated because you can see it's gone quite matte looking and it looks a little bit cloudy, but once you have filed and top coated, you're going to bring back all of the shine from those glitters. But it's a great way to tell if you have missed anything when coming to encapsulating, because if there are any pieces of glitter that are still nice and shiny, that means you haven't encapsulated them. And then this is going to compromise your structure of the nail, but it also is going to mean that when it does come to finish filing, you're going to file into those glitters and file them off. So you need to make sure that anything you've popped down, whether it be glitter, mylar, flakes, foils, whatever it is, and you're encapsulating it, you need to make sure that that clear acrylic fully covers it. I'm going to leave that first nail to set and we'll file and top coat further along in the video. So I'm going to move on to the second nail. Again, I'm coming in with that thin clear acrylic base. So I've popped down a medium sized bead, tapping it up into place and then pulling it down the nail, really stretching that acrylic out so it gives us just a thin layer over the entire nail. Try to make sure it's nice and smooth as well, as you do want a nice smooth surface to work on top of. Now I'm coming in with a slightly darker pink acrylic and I'm going to apply this down at the cuticle. And on this now we're going to do a glitter fade, but we're going to do the glitter from the tip of the nail fading down towards the cuticle area. So I want to make sure that the nail bed area is fully covered with this pink acrylic, but I'm working in small beads just so I don't end up with a too bulky nail, as again we'll be fully encapsulating this nail. And I'm just blending this out, washing it down towards the tip of the nail. I don't need any of this particular colour at the very tip of the nail because we're going to be applying our glitter there anyway. And it's going to give off a different effect depending on whether you've got a lighter colour underneath, a darker colour, or you've got your clear tip, because the particular glitter we're using has that iridescent colour shift to it. So it's one of those glitters that I love to play around with and do different designs with, because depending on how you use it, you're going to get different effects from it. Now again, I'm picking that glitter up using a small wet bead of clear acrylic, exactly the same as before, except for this time I'm just focusing it down at that tip area. So I've placed the glitter and acrylic down and I'm really using my brush to just mix the glitter into the acrylic a little bit, and that's why it helps to keep the brush nice and wet with your monomer. And then I'm just going to repeat this. So again, you'll see I'm just using the tip of my brush and I'm swirling that glitter into the acrylic. And then I'm just tapping and nudging, pressing it into place and starting to blend it back down so that it creates that gradient glitter fade effect. You want to make sure that you keep your glitter pieces off of your sidewalls. So make sure that you've got no glitter pieces overhanging your sidewalls, because you're just going to file them off if that happens anyway. So it's a lot easier and saves you any hassle when it does come to finish filing if all of those glitters are placed nicely onto the nail and not overhanging the tip or the sidewalls. Make sure all of those glitter pieces are lying nice and flat as well. Again, because when it comes to encapsulating, if there's pieces of glitter sticking up, you're going to file into them. So I did leave the glitter a minute or two just to set in place before coming in and encapsulating. Sometimes you might find that if you come in and encapsulate straight away, you're going to move those glitter pieces around a little where the acrylic has not dried. So I just like to give it a minute or two to just set up and then come in and encapsulate. And I'm encapsulating exactly the same way as before. Now when I encapsulate, I like to work slightly wetter with my clear acrylic. I find that this way it just flows down the nail a lot better and is able to move and get around all of those pieces of glitter without you having to do too much work, to be honest. So I'm going to come in with my next bead, placing that down. I like to just bring in the sides a little bit. Here annoyingly I had a little bit of fluff or something stuck in my acrylic, so I did just have to get that out. But then I'm just blending that acrylic back a little bit before pulling it down over the rest of the nail. Blending everything out, trying to keep it all nice and smooth. The smoother you apply your acrylic, the less finish filing you're going to have to do, but this does come with practice, so don't worry too much if at first your application is a little bit uneven or bumpy, because you'll fix this when it comes to filing anyway. Now on the Charlie's Nail Art website, she has so many glitters to choose from. They are absolutely beautiful. I've got a huge collection of them myself, but one of my favourites are these multi-cut glitter mixes, because although you've got those chunkier pieces in there, you've got some smaller pieces as well. So I find those are the easiest mixes to work with when it comes with acrylic, because they're quite versatile as well. Now on to the third design, we're going to do a glitter fade again, but this time the glitter is going to fade from the cuticle up towards the tip of the nail. And I'm also going to use a lighter pink acrylic as well, because I wanted to again show you that these glitters can give off different effects depending on whether you use them over lighter or darker colours. But as always, I'm starting off with that thin clear acrylic base. And then I'm going to come in with my lighter pink acrylic. So this one is a core colour. So if you was using this on its own, you technically wouldn't need to encapsulate it. But because we're applying the glitter, we are going to encapsulate. Now again, because this nail is quite long, I'm starting off with my acrylic roughly halfway to 3/4 of the way down the nail, and I just want to apply a thin even layer of this colour. I want it to look quite opaque at the very tip of the nail, but I don't want there to be too much bulk, because again we're adding layers of product and it's very easy to end up with a bulky nail when you are coming in with several layers of product. So I'm just trying to keep everything as thin as possible. Just blending out my acrylic, especially at those side walls, because that's where you can end up with your excess acrylic running to. So make sure to keep your side walls nice and neat. Then you'll also notice when I apply my cuticle bead, I'm tilting that finger downwards and pushing the acrylic up towards the cuticle. This way it stops the acrylic running back and flooding your cuticle area. And I also want to keep the cuticle part of this now very, very thin, because that's where we're going to be applying our glitter. But I did come in and apply a little bit more at the very tip of the nail, just to make sure that colour was nice and opaque. Now once I've got the pink applied, I'm going to come in with the glitter. So I'm going to pick up a really small bead of clear acrylic. You only need a tiny amount, because this is simply just to hold the glitter in place. And then I'm doing exactly the same as before, swirling that glitter into the acrylic so that we can nudge it and move it around, and the acrylic is not going to be too lumpy bumpy, but yet it'll be there to hold the glitter pieces in place. Now it's a little bit trickier when you're working with the glitter up at the cuticle area, so that's why I've only come in with a tiny amount of glitter. That way I can take my time to move the pieces into place and get a nice neat cuticle line. Really being careful trying to nudge them up into place. You don't want to touch any of the skin on or the cuticle with the glitter or the acrylics, because it will end up causing your product to lift. Then I'm coming in with another bead of the acrylic and glitter, and I'm just going to start fading this down the nail, again keeping my brush quite wet so I'm able to move those glitter pieces around. Now obviously you can create so many amazing designs using glitter, but I find glitter fades one of the easiest yet prettiest designs to do. You can combine so many different colours and it always just looks really, really pretty, but it's not too hard to do. So if you are a beginner, I would definitely recommend starting off with either full glitter nails like we did on the first nail, or glitter fades. And then once you've got a bit more practice using glitters, you can kind of do glitter trails, little swooshes. You can add glitter into your acrylic marbles. I will probably share a few more videos showing different ways that I use glitter, but I thought we'd just start off with some simple designs. So again, we do need to encapsulate this nail. Like I said, I always run my wet brush over the nail just to make sure that when I apply my acrylic down, it's going to get all around those chunkier glitter pieces. And then I'm just going to encapsulate this nail exactly the same way as we did on the previous nails. I like to use 3 beads when I'm working on longer nails like this. But if you need to use more, that's absolutely fine. Like you can come in with as many beads as you need to until you've got that nail encapsulated. There's kind of no wrong or right amount of beads you should use. Some people find it easier to do 1 large bead or 2 large beads. Some people might prefer 3, 4, 5. As long as you get the nail encapsulated, that's all that matters. Now here I just noticed there was a little dip in the acrylic, so I come in with another bead just so that it was all nice and even, and I'm making sure that my apex is built up as well, because that's one of the most important things when it does come to encapsulating. You are obviously encapsulating the glitter so that you don't file that off, but you also need to make sure that you're building up the strength and structure with your acrylic. Now I did leave all of the acrylic to fully set before I'm going to come in and file. So I'm just whizzing over the nail with my e-file to begin with, just to remove some of the excess bulky acrylic. You don't necessarily have to do this step. You can use your hand file to do all of your filing. Again, it's just down to personal preference and whether you have and use an e-file. Then I'm going to come in with my hand file. I'm going to neaten up the side walls and the free edge of the nail, and I'm also going to come over and contour the surface of the nail, making sure everything's nice and smooth. There's no lumps or bumps in the acrylic. So I will go backwards and forwards. I'm checking the nail from all angles. It is a little tricky to file on camera and also to file on a practice hand. I definitely find it easier to file on myself, but I'm just making sure that everything's nice and smooth and even. That's why I always check from all angles as I'm going as well. You might find that one side of your nail needs a little bit more filing than the other. Just being really careful when you're going around that cuticle area. And because we have fully encapsulated that nail in the, that glitter in the acrylic, I know that I've applied a thick enough layer of acrylic that when I'm filing, I'm not going to file through to any of that glitter. But if you was to over file, you'll cut into the glitter and it will ruin your structure and ruin the effect of the nail. So always make sure that when you encapsulate with a thick enough layer of acrylic that you can do all of your filing. And also just be careful and mindful that when you are filing, you don't over file any part of the nail. Now once I'm happy with all of the filing, I come in with my buffer and I just gently buff over the entire nail. This just helps smooth out any of the scratches that the file might have left. I then did do the filing for the other two nails off camera, give the nails a good clean to remove all of the dust, and this is what they look like. I think this glitter looks lovely matte. I do love a matte nail, but obviously we're going to bring it back to life and make it look lovely and shiny using a no wipe gel top coat. So I'm just going to come in and apply a thin layer of this to the entire nail, making sure not to touch any of the skin or the cuticle area. And I just absolutely love this step where you come in with your gel top coat and all of that glitter comes back to life and all the sparkles and shininess start showing through, and you can really see how pretty this glitter is. These are my favorite kind of glitters, anything with that iridescent color shift. But you can also see here, you'll see it probably better when I show you the end result once they've been cured, but you can see the different effects that this glitter gives off, especially between the second and third design. The glitter just looks slightly differently where it's over a lighter and a darker colour background. And this is what the nails looked like when they had cured. Just look how beautiful and sparkly that glitter looks. So I really hope you all enjoyed watching. If you did, then please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up or pop a comment below. And if you haven't already subscribed, then do hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Charlie's Nail Art on all of the social media that is listed. And yeah, hopefully we shall see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.